Welcome to Money Tales, where money gets personal. I'm Cammie Doder.
And I'm Sandy Brager.
Brad Lichtman's money story moves through moments many people wrestle with, but rarely say out loud. Walking away from a prestigious career path, hitting financial freefall with young children at home, starting over when a risk does not work out. Brad meets setbacks with humility, people with compassion, and each chapter with a steady commitment to help others flourish. Across decades as an educator and leader, he came to believe that money alone does not create wealth. Vision, purpose, and accountability are involved too.
Here are 3 key money topics you'll hear in this conversation. First, how a clear sense of purpose helped Brad make unconventional choices with confidence, even when others saw them as failure. Second, what managing school systems, labor negotiations, and multi-million-dollar budgets taught him about accountability and decision-making under pressure. And third, how creating a crystal clear vision for retirement helped Brad and his wife move beyond simply managing money to intentionally designing how they wanted to live, give, and stay connected to what matters most to them. Now it's our pleasure to bring you Brad Lichtman's Money Tales.
Welcome, Brad Lichtman, to the Money Tales podcast.
Thank you. It's a privilege to be here.
It's our privilege. Maybe it's your background, but I'm thinking about the cost of college. I was last night hosting a dinner party for family, extended family, and my cousin brought her kids, and one's a senior, and she brought her boyfriend, who's also a senior of high school. All the conversation was really about college and, have they heard back and all that exciting time. But my brain, we didn't talk about it, but my brain goes, it's also so expensive. It's priceless and expensive.
Oh, the money signs were flashing through your eyes.
Oh, Sandy, and I've got younger kids, so I'm thinking about, oh God, it's only going to get seemingly more and more expensive. And
True.
Just, it's shocking, It's so important. We all went around the table, talked about where we went and the experiences and #priceless, but it's not priceless. It's quite an expensive investment.
It is. When we talk about it with clients, we have a lot of conversations about what is the goal of the education. Mm-hmm. What are the objectives? I think that's a helpful conversation because oftentimes our clients' children are in elite public or private schools and have their eyes set on the best colleges out there. And when we say best, I'll put that in quotes because sometimes that means what society thinks is best as opposed to what's best for the particular student. There's some really great college counselors out there. I know we just engaged one for our daughter who is also in high school and starting to look toward college. I found that to be a really helpful investment because this counselor has been able to work with her and help her understand the variety of different choices out there and help her begin to think in her own terms as a junior in high school, what is the return on this investment that I'm looking for? Because of course, part of it is qualitative experience, but part of it too is what is this college education going to prepare you to do later on?
Yeah, I think it's so important, these resources you alluded to, and in your case, you're investing, and I think there's a lot of online resources to help because now, you can apply to any school out there. Like the numbers you just are incredible versus when I was applying it, 3 seemed like it was kind of it tapped you out. And so now knowing all these options, sometimes that makes it harder, but I like these resources that can help you find what might be really aligned with what you're looking for versus what everybody else is talking about.
There are also additional resources out there for kids who are in environments where they don't have the resources to fund these sorts of counselors. And so they can still get advice and guidance through certain nonprofits, through public schools and other places, which I think is really lovely and helpful.
I'm sure we'll talk more about education. It's my pleasure to turn our conversation to you, Brad. And would you take a moment to briefly introduce yourself and share a couple pivotal moments that really made you the person you are today?
Thanks for asking. And your lead in with young people preparing for college that's my wheelhouse. As we'll get to,
let's go.
Spent the bulk of my career leading large public high schools, although I started my teaching career at a private high school, which I'll mention. I have overseen schools with 2,700 teenagers, very diverse campuses. I've talked to thousands and thousands of teenagers and their parents. I talk to them about preparing for college or all sorts of aspects of life. So that is my wheelhouse. I have had kids of very wealthy, privileged people, and I've had kids who live in the canyons. How to prepare for the next stage of life that's what I do. So pivotal moments, there were several I reflect on growing up. I grew up in Palo Alto before it was Silicon Valley. I grew up in the shadow of Stanford, where my mom attended. My dad flew in the Pacific as a Marine Corps pilot, World War II, settled in San Francisco, then Palo Alto, when it was just like Leave It to Beaver. You are too young maybe to even know what that show is.
I know what Leave It to Beaver is.
Kids everywhere. And so I grew up, but I grew up from an early age with structure and discipline. My dad was a Marine Corps officer, reserve, and my mother's family came from a long line of academic powerhouses, deans of law schools, governors, and so forth. So I grew up with this sense of meaning and purpose, even early on. The first pivotal moment was in 1968, which was an historic year for our country. And I was in 8th grade, and I read Les Miserables in its unabridged 1,400-page version as an 8th grader.
Wow.
And that opened my eyes to really the remarkable depth of humanity, a sense of who people are and where our place in life is, good and evil, grace. And that same summer, I visited my cousins in San Diego, and they were political activists, a little bit older. And I ended up walking the streets of Southeast San Diego to register voters. And I was 14, I wore a tie, I was the only white face. So 1968 was a pivotal year for a 14-year-old, where not all 14-year-olds are having those kinds of experiences. And I sort of got woke to what a purpose was, what a meaningful life was. So that was pivotal. My second pivotal experience was I did very well in college, and I went to law school to enter politics, but I got disenchanted. I quit halfway through, which shocked everybody. It was my first major failure. And I ended up finding a teaching job in a private school without any training, didn't know what I was doing, and a year later I thought I'd died and gone to heaven. I looked at my $9,400 paycheck in 1978, and I almost didn't want to cash it because I was having too much fun and coaching sports for $200 a season. So then I found my gift of teaching. The third pivotal moment came years later when I was tapped to, I'd already been a principal, to open the brand new high school in San Diego County. And I wore a hard hat for 2 years, and I was given carte blanche by the superintendent to do whatever I wanted. To build that school, to create curriculum, the staff. And so I learned how vision and values operate, and that school skyrocketed and was recognized by the state. We were the highest performing school of diversity in San Diego County. And it really helped me understand organizational values and how to use resources. I was in charge of a $15 million budget, 200 adults every day, 2,700 teenagers. Then later on, as assistant superintendent, I expanded scope. So those are 3 pivotal moments of finding gift, finding meaning and purpose in life.
And you talked about meaning and purpose, and it obviously was a big part of your youth. I'm curious, as you were growing up, how did you start learning about money?
Well, my dad was a stockbroker. So he was a modest stockbroker. We lived in a 1,200 square foot house. He never sought to make a lot of money, but he was very principled. He was very conservative. He said, I want to go to sleep at night and not worry. So we had enough money to be comfortable, but we took camping trips and so forth. I decided at age, I think it was about 12, that I had a little money from odd jobs, and I asked my dad to buy a share of stock. And so he said, well, buy Pacific Southwest Airlines. It was like $12 or something. So I had a share of PSA. And every day after that, for the next 4 or 5 years, I came home from school and we had a morning paper, which is the San Francisco paper, and an evening paper, the Palo Alto Times. I rushed to the Palo Alto Times to check the stock, what the stock was. And I remember going to my dad's office at night to do homework. He had a ticker tape machine in his office, the old, just that ticker tape. And I would just watch these ticker tapes, and it just fascinated me. I eventually bought 4 more shares of PSA, and when I flew on PSA to San Diego to visit my cousins, I looked at like the arm of my chair. I said, I own that arm. I have a piece of this airline. And so I eventually sold it for a profit, and then worked my way through. I put myself through college on an academic scholarship, and I had to work all the way through. So from those earliest days, Brad, you have to be frugal, work hard, persevere, don't whine. And that really transferred to the rest of my life.
I love that,
great.
Brad. So walk us through the period of time when you decided to leave law school, because law school is not inexpensive. It's an investment.
Yes,
And why did you label that as a failure?
air quote failure. In the eyes of the world and people who knew me at the University of California, where I spoke at graduation, valedictorian, they found out I'd become a high school teacher making $9,400 a year. My mother's first cousin was the dean of Harvard Law School. He negotiated the end of the Six-Day War. He wrote Getting to Yes, which is the negotiation Bible. And I grew up at his knee. So I grew up to be part of that environment. And when I left it, because I didn't find it to be a principled environment, this was just after Watergate. It was a lot of stuff going through my mind. I didn't want to go into politics. So I said, I just need something else. So it's cathartic. It didn't arrive overnight. It just was like a voice saying, this is not for you.
It sounds like there was family pressure that you were facing when you made that decision.
Maybe in my mind, I felt like historical pressure. My great-great-grandfather was Abraham Lincoln's law partner. My life was supposed to go in this direction, and it ended. So what's Brad doing? What's he going to do? Because they always told me, you have a purpose in your life, Marine Corps son, you should dedicate your life to helping to make the world a better place. That was it. That's what I grew up with. So when I left law school, that just changed. And then I fell into teaching, and I was a poor teacher.
Poor in money, yeah.
Poor in money. But oh my gosh, every day was a joy.
We bring that to life for us. Not to disparage it, but I'm just curious, why was it such a joy?
In retrospect, I didn't know this. I felt it at the time, but only through reflection. I found a gift. Somehow I connected with these kids. These were private school kids. I could create a connection, and the classroom was just a place of beauty. It was just an amazing place where we had fun. They were challenged. We laughed. They worked hard. And the kids responded. They just responded. That's all that mattered, is there was this growth happening, this flourishing happening. And my wife felt that too as a kindergarten teacher in the barrio. She connected with these kids later on. So we both feel we're in a place where we received flourishing from helping others flourish.
And your passion for teaching and educating is coming through so loudly. I'm wondering, Brad, when you had the opportunity to pivot into administration, what were you thinking about at that point in time, and what was motivating you to go away from the classroom?
To really cliff notes this, when I left teaching at the private school, I started my own corporation to do educational consulting. We incorporated, I had investors, and I had a vision of a for-profit educational firm that would run all sorts of goods and services. It failed because we coincided with recession, so school monies dried up, and that was my second failure. Law school, I set up my own. Eventually, and I was on unemployment at age 38. We had no money. We had 2 young children. If the refrigerator broke, we didn't know how to fix it. So from there, I was like, it was a very difficult time.
Can you go a little deeper in that, just to bring that, just more color to that? What was going through your mind at the time of,
oh my gosh,
you had this entrepreneurial spirit, the timing wasn't right?
It was hard. It was hard. Being on unemployment, as speaking at graduation, being teaching teachers. I worked for College Board at age 27. I was the youngest person teaching teachers how to teach AP history. Anyway, so going from these heights to that depth, having my company fail, my investors lost money, I felt guilty, I felt shame. It was really hard, but I managed to make some money. My wife was working part-time to help raise these two little boys. It was a dark place. The lesson from that is we go through changes and some arrive at our doorstep through illness or job loss. It's how to put one foot in front of the next when life throws a curveball. And that's happened to me a number of times. It was hard. I finally got a teaching credential easily through the back door because I was advised, Brad, just stop doing this. You're a teacher. There are only 2 jobs teaching history in San Diego County that year, and I got a job in the inner city. And all of a sudden, I was teaching Crips and Bloods, and my kids were getting shot. They were on drugs, and I didn't know what to do. They didn't care. They didn't care at all. So I had to reinvent myself. That first year, I'd look at the clock and say I made $20 this hour to take home to feed my babies because it was hell.
Wow.
That's what was getting you through it, was like you have a mission.
I had to make money, even though I hated what I was doing. I was not a teacher. I was something else. It was awful. A year later, I found the key. They didn't respect for what I knew, and they didn't care what I was teaching. I was teaching immigrants, and I didn't even have second language training. But I figured out the key to getting through. I had to earn their respect through respecting them raised very differently. It changed the equation, and I connected with these kids. And there's all sorts of stories which I won't get into. They were fabulous stories. I had one immigrant girl. She was just off the boat from Iraq. She didn't speak English. She had a light on in her eyes. After a year of teaching her, she said, I want to be a teacher like you.
Wow.
She went to San Diego State as a math major. She spoke 4 languages. As she was getting her degree, and by then I'd gone into an assistant principal, I said, Besma, when I'm a principal, if I have a math opening, I'll hire you. I became a principal July 1st, 1999, and we had a math opening, and I hired Besma.
Oh my gosh.
What an incredible.
She became a fabulous teacher. I still mentor her. She's an assistant principal now. And those kinds of experiences where I could connected then made me see I can have more impact on a larger audience with leadership because I'm a born leader. I've led all sorts of things. And people said, you ought to be a principal. And so that's how I made it into administration. And now I'm affecting the lives of thousands.
The measurement of that is inconceivable, like the ROI of all that you've impacted. I really appreciate you telling that one story because that helps bring it to life. Before we get to your role as a principal, I just would love to hear your thoughts on the pay of teachers. It's so low relative to the value brought. How do we fix this, Brad? Like it's infuriating to me.
Well, yes and no. There's some myth about that, Cami.
Oh, okay. Thank you,
It's
Brad.
not a 100% active statement.
Okay.
But that's the narrative. My highest salary as a principal, overseeing a $15 million budget, 200 employees reported to me. I made $130,000 a year. Now translate that into the private sector.
That was in 1999, did you
No,
say?
that would have been in 2011.
But think about that in the private sector. Okay, that maybe is where my brain is going, right? So it seems.
Yes, so the public sector, public education, well, even private education. First of all, teachers work 180 days a year.
That's true.
Okay.
Okay.
So some teachers will call it forced unemployment to be off for 8 to 10 weeks in the summer. However, on a per diem basis for 180 days of work, you have to look at what that is. It's actually 184 because they have some work days. So, and different states have different pay scales. And they have amazing benefits, incredible benefits. I mean, health benefits for the family. And I became the chief negotiator for 2,500 employees on the management side. So I know all of this. Some teachers are grossly underpaid. I had teachers that would they would spend, my wife, she would never stop thinking about her kids. Never, ever stop. And I have teachers like that. I have teachers that were grossly overpaid, but they're guaranteed the job for the rest of their life. And so you have to measure value versus output. And there's not just a one size fits all.
Or not just the salary. There's other benefits that need to be considered.
Is education undervalued? Some would say in some sectors it's overvalued. What are we training our kids for? That's what you alluded to at the beginning of this. What's the purpose of education? K-12. What are we trying to do, especially in a rapidly changing world?
Oh, I appreciate that insight. And I'm curious, as you advanced in your career, Brad, you're having more and more school responsibility related money conversations. How did that impact the conversations you were having about money and the decisions you were making about money in your personal life?
That's a good question. I had a massive budget as a high school principal. I was one of 3 decision makers at a district level with a $180 million budget, 2,500 employees. And I was the chief negotiator with 2 unions. From a broad sense, there's a lot of responsibility. I can't mess up. I have to know this budget inside and out. Building a school, they gave me $4.5 million just to buy paper clips, football helmets, every piece of carpet, chair, desk, everything. I had to create a $4.5 million budget to buy everything to put into the school that was being constructed. I mean, Excel spreadsheets upon Excel spreadsheets. And I'm accountable. I'm accountable. That's it, to the board, to the public. So that came from my dad. You're accountable. Do your job. That level of accountability, and that's just the money side. Talk about human lives at stake. I was in a school shooting. I was in a Taco Bell with my other principal friend at the Santana shooting in 2001. She asked me to not leave her side, and I was in a Taco Bell booth telling the parents that their son had died in the arms of a vice principal who I had trained and was California Teacher of the Year. I had 5 suicides in 1 year at my high school around that time. The depth of commitment is extraordinary, and it's very challenging. Be accountable, look out for others, don't shy away from the problem, meet it head on. That's just who I am, where I was trained. Anyway, to home life, money management, how do we go from having nothing at age 38 to we inherited a little money in 2008. And by then we were putting our kids through school. We had better jobs. We were saving some. We were placed with a team of financial advisors that, and it was a high wealth advisors that we didn't qualify for, but we got grandfathered in from 2008 to a decision where I had significant health issues. I've always had health issues. I've been hospitalized. I've almost died twice. In 2012, I was in the hospital as an assistant superintendent, and I couldn't keep doing this. But I thought I had to work for several more years. Our financial advisors said, no, you don't. You're frugal. You watch your budget. We trust that you will use your resources wisely and you can retire. We retired at 30% of our income. 30%. That's not what people say you should retire at. So our pensions were very small for a variety of reasons. Social Security was almost all off the table because it was taken away because of pension. We retired in 2013. It's been 12 years. Our portfolio has grown. We are safe and secure, and we live within a budget that allows us to travel worldwide, volunteer all the time, and it's through careful attention. I plan out trips 2 years ahead of time. I budget for them. I do all of the visioning, and Diane does all the fine-tuning of checkbooks and says, where are we going, Brad? I figured out how to get 3 million miles on airlines through credit card adoptions. so I could fly business class because I have claustrophobia. So anyway, it's just how you analyze the environment to use your wealth to support a vision of what that retirement should be.
You just introduced Diane, your wife. Tell us about your conversations over the years around money and how you go about it. The good conversations, the fun travel, planning, the harder conversations. How do you two navigate money conversations?
First of all, we've managed to be married 40 years as of June.
Yay!
Because she's a very forgiving woman. She's a very forgiving woman. God broke the mold when he made my wife.
Oh.
We share values completely.
Wow.
We have gone through a lot. It has not always been easy. And we managed to raise 2 sons who are now financially independent. Thank you. Especially in the last 25 years, our values have really coalesced. And before we retired, we actually sat down and created a vision for retirement. And it was based on 3 principles. So we had guiding principles to guide the last trimester of our lives, 60 to 90, whatever, our last trimester. And from those guiding principles, and even though I get up at dark 30 and she gets up a little bit later, we'll sit on the couch every morning and talk about the day, talk about what's important to us, talk about what we're facing, what our challenges are. And so when it comes to using our wealth, we're in lockstep on what the purpose of our wealth is. Our boys who are in their mid-30s know it. They know where our wealth is. They know our priority for our wealth, and they know we're very transparent. So everything's open. We don't hide anything.
I'm so glad you shared that with us, because the connection that you two have and the habits you've put in place, the structure you've put in place to protect and grow that connection is clearly a key to the success that you guys have had together.
That's one reason people, from our financial advisors to just friends, say, you two are the poster children for retirement. Because it all comes to vision. It starts with vision.
Absolutely.
And the vision is based on beliefs and values. So whether you're in your 40s listening to this, your 30s or your 50s, what's your vision for how to use your wealth? Money is not an end. It's a tool. It's a means. What do you want the money for? Yes, pay bills, put the kids in college, whatever it is. To me, the conversation is around vision, not just money management. We manage money to fulfill a vision for life. And when that's learned at an earlier age, you're able to withstand breaks. You're saying, well, that market downturn really hurt, or I lost my job, but my vision for life and my core values have not changed. Once you have a vision, and if you have a partner, it's so important. And what are the values that guide our behaviors, the way we interact with other people? Diane and I are here to help restore broken lives. We're here to use our wealth both to enjoy this incredible world, but we come alongside dozens of people who don't have what we have. And some of them are wealthy, but they're facing big challenges. So we try to meet with them as life coaches as well. So that may be rare. I don't know. I don't know how rare that is.
It's inspiring.
It feels great.
For sure.
For sure.
Brad, what's your next money conversation going to be, and who's it going to be with?
Well, interestingly enough, my next money conversations are with successful people who are facing, one is 81 years old. He's my best friend of the last 25 years, a retired nuclear fusion scientist who did very well. He's invested well, but his wife has serious dementia and he's having health issues. And he has 3 children. One died prematurely at age in her 40s. He's got his financial advisors, but I'm trying to help him through how to organize his wealth so that he can support his wife and his kids' special needs. I helped out my young aunt, who's like 80. She has a lot of wealth, but two very dysfunctional sons. Her husband died, and I'm helping her. I got her a special needs attorney. So I'm having conversations with, this is just high wealth individuals. Another friend lost his position, lofty position as a public school top level administrator prematurely. He's rudderless, and I'm helping him figure out what to do next because he has 7 children. And he's like, I don't know what to do, Brad. So, and I always have money conversations with our sons.
And what, Brad, I appreciate you, all those stories are demonstrating that their money conversations, their life conversations, their life coaching, there's mentorship there, guidance. It's incredible. This has been
the power of having those money conversations. I just want to highlight that too.
Yeah, you're right, Sandy, and the impact of it. Wow.
Can I have one closing statement?
Oh, please.
If I tear up, it's because I'm passionate and I lead from the heart. I'm a head guy that learned how to lead from my heart. If I die tonight, every day I say, I want to bless someone's life today. That's my purpose. Who can I meet? A stranger. Who can I reach out to that's not recognized by anybody else? There's all sorts of invisible people out there. So this is the arc of the life. And because I have health issues and some are very threatening, I'm okay. But if I die today, after today, I want today to be a good day. Am I following my values today? Am I treating people well? Because it's all about relationships. And I know this podcast is about money, but it's also about relationships to help guide the use of money. So I fit into that broad framework. And it's been a challenging life, but please, if I could advise listeners, figure out what are the most important values in your life. Figure those out. What are the most important, what do you value most above everything else? And those are hard conversations at different stages of life. I don't care whether you're 20, 30, 50, 70, 80. What do you value most and why? And where do those values come from? That's the advice of an old man who's seen a lot. If you're grounded, what do I believe in? Plant my flag in. How does that govern my values? The values are the things which guide our behavior and our thoughts. The things that create priorities, and then go about life, living life to fulfill those values. And you will have the best opportunity to flourish. That's my message.
Brad, that's priceless. And you touched us deeply today in this conversation. Thank you for doing so. Thank you for inspiring us through your stories and for joining us on Money Tales.
My privilege. Thank you, ladies.
Thanks for listening to the Money Tales podcast. If you've enjoyed this episode, share it with someone you think would benefit from listening. And leave us a review on your favorite podcasting platform. Your ratings and reviews help more people find our podcast. If you're inspired to gain clarity and peace of mind about financial matters, don't hesitate to reach out to our team at Aspirient. Go to aspirient.com/start a dialogue. Or you can email Sandy and me at podcast@aspirient.com. See you next time.